Welcome to the Injured Gadgets Samsung Galaxy S5 Active and Sport Digitizer and LCD Removal and Reinstallation Guide. So the Active and the Sport are extremely similar. They don't use the same screen, but the teardown is exactly the same. The screens are slightly different in terms of the actual glass, so that's why we're using an S5 Active here, but the Sport is pretty much the same thing. So the first thing you want to do is remove your backdoor battery cover, remove the battery, and remove the SIM card and micro SD card if you have those in there. We're going to use a heat gun to actually remove this glass. If you don't have a heat gun, you can use a blow dryer, but obviously a heat gun is it's going to actually direct the heat where you want it to go. Now, if your LCD is broken, unlike ours, our LCD worked fine, then you can be kind of rough in this area. However, since our LCD worked, we're actually going to take our time on this, heat up the sides, heat up the edges. The reason for this is because we actually recycle the broken the broken glasses. So if your glass is broken but your LCD works, then you can actually send it to us and we'll pay you anywhere from $15 to $60 depending on what we're paying for those at the moment for the Samsung screens. Now, this one actually came off somewhat easy. It didn't take too long of a time to actually remove this entire LCD with the glass, and we saved it because this only had one crack in the bottom of it. So what we actually recommend using, we tried to use a playing card to kind of open up the top. We tried to use a little plastic pry tool. Neither of those worked. We had to use what we have on our website as the iSesamo tool. So we have a link to it in our comments below, but you can use the iSesamo tool and you'll go in from the top. This isn't the iSesamo tool, the next tool we use is. But you can actually go in from the top, and we always recommend going from the top where the glass is not the LCD, because that way you'll kind of be able to separate the glass, which has the adhesive around it, from the actual housing of the phone. Alright, so once you kind of get a crease in there with your iSesamo tool, go ahead and stick a plastic playing card in there, and you can start heating it up a little bit more. We're going to fast forward this a tiny bit, but pretty much the idea is use a playing card, reason being it's never going to crack the LCD. Obviously you don't want to pull too hard with your fingers because you can crack the LCD because it is still laid down with the adhesive, but with the playing card it's just not strong enough to break an LCD, so that's why we use it. However, like I said, if your LCD is already broken, you know what, go to town, have fun ripping it out. Take out your anchor on, I guess, your broken screen. But if it's great, it works, go green, recycle it with us, make the world a little bit better. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this up a bit. Alright, as you can see, the buttons on the bottom of the screen are still attached to the screen. Make sure you swap those over to the brand new screen, because if you don't, well, you're not going to have the little button tray there. But yeah, that's pretty much the removal of the entire LCD. Make sure that if you have any remnant glass around your actual frame, you remove the glass, because if you don't remove it, you could end up cracking your brand new glass. I mean, these glasses are less than maybe a half of a millimeter thick, so you definitely want to remove the remnant glass that might be left on your frame. And now you're pretty much ready to go ahead and start the reinstall soon. What we like to do is we like to test our screens. So one, obviously, if you're going to try and recycle it, go ahead and plug it back in. Don't install it, obviously. Put the battery in, boot it up, make sure that your new screen works, make sure that your old screen works, sorry, before you send it to us. Because obviously we need that LCD to work if we're going to recycle it. Pretty much we separate the LCD from the glass with a refurbishing process, and we laminate it down with optically clear adhesive. So we do that ourselves. And obviously if you have a brand new LCD, this is a great way to test it before installing it all the way. So you want to just make sure that your new LCD works, the touchscreen works, everything. Go ahead and power your phone off, take the battery out, and we will start the reinstallation in just a moment here. Alright, so we've got our brand new LCD assembly. What we do is we take this red tape, we sell it on our website, there's a link to it below, and we actually cut it out into pieces. It's 1mm, 2mm, whatever you want to use. We lay it all down the sides, the top, the bottom. It's double-sided adhesive. And then you could put some on the back of the housing as well. Make sure you lay it on the sides and the bottom, because if you don't, sometimes light can get through. But yeah, we pretty much just lay down the double-sided adhesive in the primary areas, and this tape is super strong, so I wouldn't go crazy with it, but what we did is we just put it, like I said, showed the sides, the tops, the bottom, and once again, this is the 1mm red tape on our website, and it'll hold your screen in there perfectly fine. So go ahead and remove the secondary side of it. Obviously make sure you leave the adhesive down, and once that's complete, you can go ahead and take your brand new screen. Make sure you transfer over the buttons that were on the bottom. Now I want to make note that those buttons, if you don't place them in there properly, can crack the bottom of your new screen. Once again, the new screen is not even a millimeter thick, so if you don't place it on there properly, you could easily crack the bottom of your new screen, and then guess what, you just broke a $150 screen, whatever it may be. So go ahead and plug it in. I'm not sure why I had such a hard time here. It's pretty simple to plug in. There we go. And go ahead and grab your little buttons right there. I like to go ahead and put them into the screen before laying it on the actual housing so that I don't crack it. Make sure it's in there properly. And now carefully lay this down. Okay. You might have to flip it upside down because obviously the buttons are trying to flop out. If you press too hard and they're not in there properly, like I said, you can crack it. So take your time here. I mean, you spent 15-20 minutes preparing this anyhow. Take the extra minute and properly lay it. Once the buttons are there, go ahead and place your screen flat. Sometimes I'll use a book or some clamps, something, to just let that adhesive set for a little bit, because the adhesive does need to set to properly secure the phone to the actual housing. So there we go. Our screen's down perfectly fine. Go ahead and put your battery back in. Put your micro SD card, your SIM card back in. Close the battery backdoor cover, obviously. And then go ahead and boot up your phone. Always run a quick test on your phone. Test the buttons out. Test the touchscreen out. Do whatever you need to do to make sure it's working. And you have completed the repair of your Samsung Galaxy S5 Active or Sport. Like I said, the repair is exactly the same. If you have a Sport, don't buy the active glass. If you have an active, don't buy the Sport glass, because the glasses are slightly different. So, just as a heads up, you don't want to buy the wrong glass and not fit. But the repair and tear down is exactly the same. Make sure to like us on Facebook and comment below.